She always said she deserved the finer things in life. From the moment she could speak, luxury wasn't just a want. It was her obsession. Jewelry that sparkled brighter than the sun, shoes that cost more than a month's rent, vacations to places most people only saw in magazines. And she wasn't shy about it. She wanted it all, and she wanted it now. But luxury came at a price, one her family could hardly imagine. Her sister was different. Where she craved silk gowns and champagne, her sister craved something much simpler, much harder to define. Love. Real, messy, imperfect love that made your heart ache in the best possible way. She didn't care about wealth or status, didn't care if the world whispered that she should aim higher. Her happiness was in moments, in connection, in feeling alive in a way no designer handbag could ever deliver. From the outside, they looked inseparable. People assumed sisters were always on the same side, laughing over shared secrets, holding each other up when life got rough. But anyone who looked closer would notice the tension, the unspoken rivalry. They loved each other, yes, but in ways that were almost dangerous. Because when one sister's desires were so sharply at odds with the other's values, conflict didn't just simmer, it exploded. It started small. A borrowed dress that never came back, a comment that was a little too sharp, a secret that shouldn't have been kept. But beneath the surface, it was more than sibling squabbles. It was a battle for identity, a clash between ambition and authenticity, between craving the glittering life and chasing the heart. And neither sister fully realized just how high the stakes would get, until that fateful day when a single choice set their worlds on a collision course. That day, the air in their family home felt different, heavy and electric. The kind of tension that makes you catch your breath and look over your shoulder, half expecting something to shatter. And maybe that was exactly what was about to happen. One sister walked into the room with a plan in her mind, a plan for wealth, for admiration, for the life she had always dreamed of. The other sister, unaware of the brewing storm, smiled innocently, carrying only hope and the kind of love that could either save them both or destroy everything. No one saw it coming, not even them. Because when desire meets devotion, when dreams clash with the heart, nothing is predictable. And in that moment, standing in the middle of their perfectly ordinary living room, neither sister knew that one choice, one reckless decision, would turn their lives upside down forever. By the end of that day, the line between love and obsession, between luxury and happiness, would blur in ways that no one could ever untangle. And as the sun set over the city, casting long shadows across their home, a question lingered in the air, one that neither sister dared answer aloud. How far would you go to get what you wanted, and at what cost? But the answer was already coming for them. Growing up, they had shared everything: rooms, toys, even secrets whispered under the covers at night. But as they grew older, the differences between them became impossible to ignore. The older sister, the one who wanted luxury, had always been ambitious, driven by a hunger for status and recognition. She spent hours flipping through fashion magazines, memorizing brand names, imagining herself walking through life wrapped in silk and diamonds. She wanted admiration, power, the kind of life people envied from afar. And she wasn't afraid to take what she thought she deserved. Her younger sister, on the other hand, was soft but fierce in her own way. She didn't care about labels or money. She cared about feeling alive, about moments that made her heart beat faster, about connections that could last a lifetime. She believed in love the way other people believed in the sun rising, inevitable, constant, and worth chasing no matter how far it took her. She had a way of seeing the beauty in ordinary things, of turning the smallest gestures into magic. Their parents, caught between admiration for one daughter's ambition and worry for the other's dreamy heart, tried to guide them both, but life had other plans. The house they grew up in, cozy, cluttered, full of memories, was a stage for silent battles and whispered judgments. Every family dinner, every casual conversation carried an undercurrent of tension. Words that seemed innocent on the surface often hid sharp edges, tiny reminders of the differences they could no longer ignore. And yet, despite it all, there were moments of closeness. Laughter over childhood jokes, late-night talks under the stars, shared tears over heartbreaks and disappointments. Those moments made the tension almost bearable, made it feel like maybe, somehow, They could coexist despite their conflicting desires. But life has a way of pushing people to extremes, and small cracks in relationships can turn into chasms when ambition and emotion collide. The older sister had always dreamed of leaving their small town behind, of stepping into a world where she could shine. She worked tirelessly, charming people, making connections, doing whatever it took to move closer to the life she craved. Meanwhile, the younger sister's heart led her down a very different path, filled with love that was messy, uncertain, and wholly human. She found joy in things that money couldn't buy, in people who might never understand her simplicity, but who made her feel alive. It was only a matter of time before these diverging paths collided. Each sister had chosen her own way, and the world was about to test which desire, luxury or love, was stronger and which would demand the higher price. Their bond, once unshakable, now felt like a fragile thread stretched across a stormy chasm, ready to snap with the smallest push. And on one seemingly ordinary afternoon, something happened, something small, almost unnoticeable, that would spark a chain of events neither sister could have predicted. A choice, a glance, a word, simple actions that had the power to unravel everything. The question now hung in the air like a shadow they couldn't shake. Who would get what they wanted first, and what would they lose in the process? Days turned into weeks, and the tension between the sisters was no longer quiet. It had become electric. Every encounter was charged, every conversation a delicate game of words and hidden meanings. The older sister's pursuit of luxury had grown bolder. She had started attending exclusive events, mingling with people whose approval she craved, wearing dresses that shimmered under chandelier light, and slipping into rooms that smelled of expensive perfume and success. But each step closer to her dream seemed to widen the distance between her and the sister she once adored. Meanwhile, her younger sister had fallen deeper into a love that was as intoxicating as it was complicated. Late-night phone calls, stolen glances across crowded rooms, whispered promises that seemed fragile but unbreakable, they consumed her. She tried to share the joy with her older sister, hoping for a hint of support, but all she received were cold eyes and subtle dismissals. Love, for her sister, was weakness. Ambition was the only currency that mattered. Then came the invitations. 2 events, back-to-back, that would define both their paths. The older sister received a glamorous gala invitation, a chance to rub shoulders with people who could elevate her into the life she wanted. The younger sister received a letter from her love, asking her to join a private celebration, a night that promised intimacy, confession, and the kind of vulnerability she had longed for. Both events happened on the same night. The house, once a sanctuary of shared memories, now felt suffocating. Each sister moved through it like strangers, brushing past each other with a kind of wary detachment. Words that once flowed easily were now measured, pointed, weighted with meaning. The older sister's eyes flicked toward her sister's preparations, a flash of irritation, or was it envy? The younger sister sensed it, too, a chill that ran down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that something irreversible was coming, that the night ahead would shift everything between them. As the evening drew near, small incidents began to pile up, a spilled glass, a snapped bracelet, a whispered remark overheard at the wrong moment. Each tiny disruption felt deliberate, a push against the fragile balance that had held them together. The air between them was thick with anticipation, as though the house itself was holding its breath. By the time the sisters were ready to leave, neither could deny it. They were on the edge of a precipice. One step in the wrong direction, one careless word, and everything could collapse. Their paths, once parallel, were converging in ways neither sister could control, and the night ahead promised not just opportunity, but danger, emotional, moral, unavoidable. And then it happened. A single text appeared on the younger sister's phone. Its words were simple, but the meaning was explosive. Her eyes widened, a gasp caught in her throat. Across the room, her older sister laughed softly, unaware, or was she aware, of what was about to unfold. Everything they thought they knew, everything they were holding on to, was about to be tested. And as the clock ticked closer to the night's events, a question lingered, unspoken and terrifying. Who would reach their dream first, and who would pay the heaviest price? The answer was coming, and it would arrive sooner than either of them could imagine. Just as the sisters stepped into their separate worlds for the night, the unexpected happened. The older sister, dazzling in her gown, was approached by a man who wasn't just influential, he was dangerous. His charm was magnetic, his smile calculating, and the promise he whispered was more than opportunity. It was temptation wrapped in power. But what she didn't know was that he had his own agenda, one that would pull her into a game far darker than she had ever imagined. Meanwhile, the younger sister's night of love turned sinister. Her partner, the one she trusted completely, revealed a secret she had never anticipated, one that cast doubt on everything she believed about their relationship. A hidden truth, a betrayal wrapped in sweetness, left her heart pounding and her world spinning. And in the shadows, the sisters' paths were about to collide in a way neither expected. What started as ambition and love had now evolved into a dangerous collision of secrets, lies, and choices with consequences they couldn't yet foresee. In that single moment, the fragile line between loyalty and obsession, trust and betrayal, luxury and love, began to shatter. And as the night deepened, both sisters realized nothing would ever be the same again. The night erupted into chaos neither sister could have predicted. The older sister, caught in the glittering world she had longed for, suddenly realized the cost of her ambition. The man she had trusted, the one who promised influence and status, had manipulated her. Every smile, every compliment, every whispered suggestion had been part of a plan to use her for his gain. And in that moment, surrounded by the flash of cameras and the buzz of the gala, she felt the weight of every choice she had ever made, the greed, the impatience, the hunger for recognition. Across the city, the younger sister faced her own devastation. The person she loved, the one who had seemed so pure and devoted, had lied. The secret unveiled wasn't just a minor betrayal. It was a revelation that shook the very foundation of her heart. She had invested everything into love, trusting blindly, and now she was left staring at a truth she hadn't even imagined. Her emotions collided: anger, heartbreak, fear, but beneath it all was the stubborn spark of resilience that had always defined her. And then, as if the universe wanted to test them both, their paths converged. A single phone call, frantic and breathless, brought them together. They met in the shadow of a quiet street, away from the glamour, away from the lies. Their eyes locked, two sisters, so different, yet bound by blood, by history, by the choices that had led them here. For the first time, they spoke honestly, their voices trembling. The older sister confessed her mistakes, the manipulation, the emptiness behind her pursuit of luxury. The younger sister admitted her own heartbreak, her trust betrayed, her vulnerability exposed. And in that raw, exposed moment, something shifted. They weren't just sisters, they were survivors. But just as relief began to settle, the final twist struck. The older sister reached into her pocket and found a small envelope she hadn't noticed before. Inside was a single card with a cryptic message: "You've only just begun. Everything you value will be tested again." And in that instant, both sisters realized their story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Morning arrived quietly, washing the city in soft gold light, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the sisters breathed without tension pressing down on their chests. The chaos of the night still lingered, but it had shifted from fear to clarity. They had survived, not unscathed, but awake, aware, and strangely stronger. The older sister sat at the edge of her bed, the dress of last night folded neatly on a chair. The glamour, the attention, the fleeting thrill of recognition, it all felt hollow now. She realized that the life she had chased so relentlessly had almost cost her the most important thing: her connection to the people who truly loved her. Luxury had its allure, but it had also been a mirror, reflecting only her insecurities and desires. She thought about her younger sister and felt a quiet gratitude. She had reminded her, without even meaning to, what really mattered. Across the room, her younger sister unpacked the memories of her own heartbreak. The betrayal still stung, but it no longer consumed her. Love had its risks, she understood, and sometimes it hurt, but it also taught resilience, empathy, and courage. She had seen her sister fall into temptation, and she had faced deception herself, but she also realized they were both human, vulnerable, and capable of growth. Their lives weren't perfect, but the imperfections were what made them real. When they finally met in the kitchen, the air was calm but charged with something neither had felt in a long time: understanding. No words were rushed. They spoke slowly, honestly, laughing softly at the absurdity of their conflicts, and crying just a little over the pain that had brought them here. For the first time, they weren't competing for status or defending their hearts against imagined threats. They were simply sisters, bound by history, by mistakes, and by love. Over breakfast, they promised each other something simple, yet profound: honesty, compassion, and support, no matter how tempting the world's distractions became. They knew they couldn't undo the past, nor could they control every twist that life might throw at them. But they could face it together. And that, they realized, was far more valuable than any dress, gala, or whispered promise from someone who didn't truly care. Even when the envelope from last night lingered in the older sister's hand, a reminder of future challenges, it no longer felt threatening. It was simply a reminder that life would keep testing them, but together, they could endure, learn, and even find joy in the struggle. As they stepped outside, sunlight spilling across their faces, the city looked different, not brighter or richer, but alive. And in that moment, they understood something vital: love, family, and connection were the luxuries worth pursuing. Everything else, status, wealth, admiration, was fleeting, fragile, and empty without them. And as the sisters walked side by side, sharing laughter that was once rare, a quiet truth settled between them. Life would always challenge them, tempt them, and surprise them, but together, they could survive anything. The past was behind them, the night's chaos a memory, and the future, well, it was theirs to face, side by side.